Welcome back to Investing and Trading Live, sponsored by TradingAcademy.com. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast, Investing and Trading Live, wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. If you're just tuning in, did I say Spotify or Spotify? I think I said Spotify. Anyways, if you're just tuning in the last segment, we're talking about how to have an edge in the financial markets, how to stack the odds in your favor with proper capital management, so that way collecting your profits and they're given to you, protecting those losses, keeping them small, and that way you're not just in it for the quote-unquote long haul where it pays you 30 years later. Have strategies that are designed to pay you now. And that's what I want to talk about in this segment, Al, is there are income strategies that a lot of people are looking at. I was talking about that class earlier, and the people that were in that class, they wanted to have another income strategy on top of their job. Mm-hmm. So they like you said earlier, high level executives, very smart people doing really well, but they are smart enough to know it takes more than one source of income to actually build wealth. And they were like, okay, well, we're busy with our jobs. I can't go get another job because I want to be able to spend some time with the family. What are the opportunities that I can do at home as long as you have an internet connection? And yes, you're going to need a little bit of capital too. And so we said, okay, well, let's look at the markets and see what assets have those opportunities for people that work during the day and they want to have the opportunities at night, or just the opportunity to maximize the capital that they actually have access to. Say somebody has $5,000 to $10,000 set aside. Even if they have more, maybe start between 5 and 10, just as an example. Futures and Forex offer an opportunity to get into the market with that amount of capital because the capital required is much less. Right. So first off, explain what futures are, and then we're going to get into how the capital requirements, how that actually works, so you know that you can take small risk in the financial markets.
Yeah, well, you mentioned a couple of things there I think that are really important. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that if you need to kind of pull yourself out of a hole, and that's what I've been seeing with a lot of these executives and business owners coming in, they said, either our business got too busy and then we got hit with COVID, with our business really took a big hit when COVID happened. We're still trying to come back from that. A lot of the executives that went through 2022 and lost maybe 20 to 40% of what they had, a lot of them had also gone through maybe a 50 or 60% drawdown during the last recession, 2007, 2008.
So what are some of the opportunities they have with futures?
They need to build to come out of that hole. You can't rely on what didn't work before. You're going to have the same thing happen.
Correct.
So there are assets that you can use that give you the opportunity to have better than average returns, and do that with a smaller amount of money. It's capital management. It's really getting the best productivity out of every investment dollar you have. Mm-hmm. You mentioned futures and Forex. Futures, Forex, and options are what we call leveraged assets, which means that each dollar that you have in an account can control something that's a multiple of it. If you're just buying stock or a mutual fund, you basically buy, every dollar buys a dollar's worth of something instead of a dollar buying or controlling maybe $20 or $50 or $100 worth of something.
Yeah, that's what keeps a lot of people out of the market because they have the stock mind. They think every dollar I have, I need to buy so many shares, and it ties up all their capital. With futures, you have what is up to 20 to 1 leverage.
So 20 to 1, it can be even higher with some of the commodities. But what we're looking at, futures is a family. Look at it as a family of investments that you can choose from. If you want to participate in the stock market, you can participate in the major markets with futures contracts, even foreign markets.
So let's stop there for a second. So you can trade the S&P 500 in the futures market.
Yes, you can.
So that's the overall stock market. So you can do that with less capital then.
Exactly. You can trade the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell. You can trade, as I mentioned, foreign markets. So if that's your goal is to be in the markets, you can do that. If you want to maybe look at commodities.
Gold,
silver, corn, sugar,
oil,
currencies, interest rates, a number of different things that give you the opportunity to put a portfolio together that is truly diversified.
We haven't talked about lean hogs for a while.
Well, you go ahead and talk about lean hogs.
Well, think about it. Lean hogs have really nothing to do with the S&P 500.
Yeah,
you mentioned correlations. Yeah. There's not going to be a correlation, so you can properly diversify your portfolio that way too.
And why is that important? Well, if you just have a stock portfolio or a mutual fund portfolio, which is stocks, that whole asset family, that category, gets taken down when the market goes down. The correlation becomes very high among all the stocks. All the companies really take a bath even if they don't deserve to.
Yep.
But when you don't have correlated assets, like you mentioned, lean hogs or sugar, it has nothing to do with what happens in the S&P 500. So you can have non-correlated assets there. There are inversely correlated assets, maybe the market in gold, for example.
Yeah.
So you can put together a really well-diversified portfolio. It's a short-term trading vehicle. So if you're looking for income, and the way you need to approach the markets for income is different than what you do for wealth. Wealth is more long-term, something you're going to hold on to longer. But if you're looking for additional income, it means you have to be able to access that money at a short-term basis. And that's relative. It could be, for some people, maybe it's daily, for some people weekly or monthly, but it has to be more short-term than 10 years or 20 years.
Yep, and just kind of as you're talking there, a lot of people are probably thinking, well, hey, I don't know anything about lean hogs, or I don't know anything about oil. You don't have to know anything about that. Just like you don't have to know anything about, say, like you mentioned earlier, Amazon stock or Apple stock or whatever stock it is, because how we trade and invest is based off of price action, which is institutional order flow. So we're identifying supply and demand, which is buyers and sellers. So all that you're doing is replacing Apple stock with lean hogs.
Yeah,
it's just an instrument is all it is. So that's the simplicity of it.
Exactly. And in the way that you be successful as a trader is to learn how to read a price chart. And if you can read a price chart, it really doesn't make any difference what it is a price chart of. All you're looking for is the right time, the right price to enter something and the right price to exit something. And if your goal in investing and trading is to benefit financially, then the price is the most important thing that you can identify. If you can find the price at where, for whatever the asset is, where the institutions are going to be active, that's going to, because you mentioned putting the odds in your favor earlier, the way you do that is identifying the right price. That is a price at which you have the best probability of that particular asset moving in the direction that you want it to go. And then also part of reading a chart is being able to identify where your profit is. And that's an important part of being successful too. Most people just disregard that because they're holding on for 5 or 10 years. Every time you have a profit that is taken away, that's money that should have been in your pocket, in your portfolio. And then if you can identify the right price, you also can have a much more sophisticated or accurate risk management process.
Yep. So just to summarize there, everybody has the stock mindset. So you think you need to buy a company. Well, if you have that mindset, you can still do that in the futures market. You have the S&P 500, the Dow, the NASDAQ, the Russell. You have the ability to trade those in the futures market, and you have the ability to use less money with that because you have leverage or buying power, so you have more capital efficiency. The great thing for people that work during the day, these markets are open 24 hours a day, so that allows more people to have that opportunity. I mentioned at the beginning of this segment, people that are coming to these investing classes are looking to have another source of income. That's their goal. And they don't want to have to go get another job. They want to be able to use a little bit of capital that they have. So it takes some capital to get started. You're not risking that whole thing. You're taking a small piece of that to get into your investment positions, whether it's the S&P 500 or gold or oil or silver or corn, whatever that may be. It's just an instrument. And that's the instrument to have a potential opportunity or another source. So it's just strategies that are designed for that, to keep things simple. So that's why we have these investing classes. So we're able to show you, we're talking about over the airwaves here, and we only have so much time on the show here. We have an hour show here today. So in these investing classes, we have a 2-hour investing class that dials in to what these markets are, what the futures market is, how it's traded, why it's traded, what type of people will want to invest in that. That way you can see if that's the right thing for you, especially if you're looking for a second or a third income source, because if you're looking to build wealth, it might take more than just your job. So to come into one of these classes, simply just text the word investing to the number 210-210 for 2 seats for this class. We do these classes here locally at our academy in Bloomington. We have a state-of-the-art facility. We also have these classes in Edina. We have them in Plymouth, Maple Grove. We have these classes in Shoreview, Shorewood, Woodbury. So we're doing a little campaign all across the metro here to make it easier for you to come to these classes. You can also go to our website. Go to otamin.com. That's otaminn.com, and you can register there for that free class. It's during the day, during the evenings. We have them on the weekdays and on the weekends. So simply go to otaminn.com. That's otamin.com. Now, coming up next, we got one more segment to go, and I want to cover the wealth strategies, which would be 401k, IRA, and the assets that are designed to use in there. This is Josh and Al, Investing and Trading Live. We will be right back.